Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Resident Rulebreakers. I'm Kayla.
I'm Camille.
And on today's podcast, we're going to be discussing episode 111, which is called And the Nurses Get Screwed. It was written by Elizabeth Klaviter and Peter Chen and directed by Liz Allen. Before we go into our discussion, we have a few little tidbits of news from the week or whatever. They did record the iconic wedding over the past week.
But from what we can confirm, it's in a barn because of the exterior shot that one of the staffers released. There were fairy lights and white tablecloth wedding.
And then also Manish had a movie he filmed last year for Netflix released this week on the 28th called Holidate, and it's on Netflix, and it's got Emma Roberts and Kristen Chenoweth and quite a few other big name actors, but Manish's character is a doctor in this too, but he's got a lot more screen time than I expected him to have. So let's just put it like that.
Anyway, go watch it. Go support Manish. Go support our boy Devon and watch Holidate.
Yep. And also this week we got something from one of the staffers. We got some information about the episode count, which is something we've been questioning since renewal, because Fox never really announced it.
It's not official, but unofficially we have 16 episodes. It's not 100% confirmed.
But it makes sense because 13 episodes is a go-to number for Fox for a half season.
Yeah.
And then they added the 3 episodes, which we were told was already going to happen from the previous season that were never filmed in the first place. So 16 makes sense.
So anyway, for 16 will lead us up till May.
Yep. We'll run January to May. Also, there was this thing that came out, and we really meant to discuss it a couple podcasts ago, and we didn't. So we apologize, but there was this thing that came out over, I don't know, middle of summer, said that one of the characters was going to be fighting for their life in the process of everything. We don't know what they're fighting with, if it's a virus or if it's a car wreck or some type of other injury. We have no clue. It's just that they're fighting for their life. So we'll see what happens as we get closer to the release date. Now that we're in November, we're 2 months away. 2 months away.
Yay.
Which, as we noted last week, it will come back in January, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Fox. So
we have yet to get an official release date, but we know it's in January on Tuesdays at 8 o'clock. So
yes,
I'm excited.
Yep, I'm excited to see it come back.
2 more months.
So from there, we are jumping right into our episode, which is obviously, like we mentioned, episode 111, And the Nurses Get Screwed. It's actually a pivotal episode for this series because there's a lot of changing going on.
Yeah.
But the big part of this episode is Nick and her fight to prove that Lane Hunter purposely killed Lily, and that she did not, when she added the potassium that night, she didn't put into the dosage wrong.
There was a lot of major storylines going on in that episode. Mm-hmm. You got Belle's patient.
Belle becomes the CEO.
Belle's patient being on fire in the OR.
Yeah, the guy.
I mean, it's and you got the NetTube video.
They can't say YouTube apparently.
Yeah, obviously. But they I guess Conrad let him hack the hospital's recording system or whatever.
Which the guy was like, "You really need better security, dude."
But
that wouldn't have happened.
This was also Maren Dungey's last episode. She played Claire Thorpe or whatever.
I think it's also the last episode for Maureen Hiatus too.
Yeah, but she was barely on in the first place. She was like
she was barely on in the first place. But like when you do see her, you're like, oh yeah, there's the PR lady. But just very, very not there for a main cast member, which is disturbing. But anyway, yeah, the first topic really is Nick's fight to prove she's innocent.
Yeah.
And like they doing like this, the lawyers are in there and they're trying to talk to her and everything. And
so for Grey's Anatomy fans, that's Gary Clark. The lawyer is Gary Clark. The guy who shot up Seattle Grace is on this episode.
Like Nick has this monologue and it really hits home. Like for me, like I have a lot of friends who are nurses are in nursing school, and like that's a choice for them. It's not that they flunked out of medical school. Mm-hmm. They choose to be nurses. Nurses get paid really well.
Yeah.
And and Nick's a nurse practitioner.
Yeah. Nick, I've heard nurses, especially the past couple of months since the coronavirus, doctors and nurses getting attacked, getting questioned about how they're diagnosing patients. Like all of a sudden, people who have never gone to medical school or never had a medical degree or anything like that are like experts on how a doctor should be treating their patients and stuff. I'm sitting there going, like, I had this one lady telling me, I've researched, and I'm sitting there going, come back when you got a medical degree, because I will believe the person who has a medical degree. But yeah, her Nick's monologue is my favorite thing that happened on that episode, where she was like, the doctors, all they do is just test, order tests or whatever. But these patients are ours. I like bathed her, I fed her, I held her when she was puking, that kind of thing. And these patients are precious to me, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But yeah, that made me cry a little bit.
Yeah, because like her family's suing them for wrongful death, but where were they? Where were they when she was going through this? Where were they when she was scared?
It was like all of a
Nick really called them out on that.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden, like, you want to get justice for your daughter when she's dead. Well, where were you when you were alive? When she was alive and needed you? You know what I mean? But yeah,
that's kind of the way I felt like with my grandma, because I was always there with her, like when she was sick. But I was like, oh, now you show up now that she's, at her funeral, now that she's dead, really? Yeah. Now you show that you care after she's passed. Were you there when she was, not able to eat and I had to feed her? So yeah, just no. I hate people like that. Like, be there for your family member, because that's a memory you'll never get back.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do.
It is. But like, I'm glad I have these memories, because like I can talk to my dad and we can cherish the fact that we have these memories. But yeah, the nurses are really the ones that are the caregivers, and so just these don't
discredit what they do. I've seen so many nurses get attacked where they say, oh, just go clean bedpans or whatever. So I'm sitting there going, let me put it this way. When you're in the hospital and can't take a shit on your own, and you need to shit on a bedpan, be great. You're going to be really grateful that the nurse is there to clean up after you. And you're going to regret.
Yep. But so, yeah, just don't diss on nurses, because they're there. They're the ones taking care of you if you ever have to be in the hospital.
They're not medical school dropouts.
No. And so, yeah, I love the fact that we have a main character who is a nurse. And I love that from the beginning. And
Yep.
But the fact is, in this episode, Conrad, he's because Conrad and Nick at this point are romantic. They were already to get back together. And Conrad is not having this. But Conrad's not having them blaming Nick for this. He's like, no, Nick didn't do this, because he's the last one that saw Lily alive.
Yeah.
And he's mad because Conrad's deposition got canceled because they thought he couldn't be objective because he's sleeping with Nick.
Yep. Lane.
And yeah, Lane did that. But Conrad's like, And so he goes to Claire and he, defends Nick, and it actually ends up making it worse for Nick.
Yep.
In the end. But Conrad is the last person to see Lily alive, and he did have a right to be able to say what he saw happened.
He was about called her death or whatever. You would think that he would be the one doing the depo or whatever. He would be needed for the deposition, but Lane. Anyway.
And But at the end of the episode, Belle fires Nick for this incident until they can go through the proper procedures or whatever of going through everything, because she can't be practicing while the lawsuit's active.
Mm.
And then Conrad and Nick leave the hospital together.
Yeah. They've already put the posters on the hospital of Belle.
Yeah. But Conrad is a great support to Nick through this whole process, and he's a good boyfriend. Let's just put it like that. Yep. Devin in this episode, he has this rotation in the ER where he's an intern. It's essentially what he always does, but he's actually diagnosing, which is what Conrad does. And Irving's there. Irving and Huntley are taking bets on. That was the comedic relief in the episode, I think.
Yeah, him and Nurse Huntley were like having bets or something about Devon.
But Devin was actually reaching out to help Nick, and because they were trying to test to see if the other patients of Lane's were sick. Yeah. Like the way Lily was. And Devin's like, I don't know how to draw blood. Nick's like, you are hopeless, doctors. And she actually had to break the rule and draw blood. But the funny scene, I think, was where Devin was trying to learn how to draw blood.
Yeah.
With Nick.
Again, this like highlights the fact that, like nurses, the importance of nurses. I mean, doctors don't know the basic of drawing blood. That's crazy. Because they just go, hey, need blood drawn. They don't need
Exactly. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, this is like the introduction of Jojo Purdy's character, who
she's a hypochondriac, right?
Yeah, she's a hypochondriac. She comes in panicking about like these random symptoms. I remember one was that she accidentally swallowed mouthwash or whatever, and so like he like goes through all these tests. To try to reassure her that she's okay or whatever. And so finally at the end of the episode, she comes back, I guess, to let her know that there's really nothing wrong with her. He sends her to Lane, which obviously,
Well, Irving sends her to Lane.
Yeah. Irving sends her to Lane. Which obviously is the beginning of the fall of Lane Hunter. The catalyst of it, because all the doctors know there was nothing wrong with her, but when she came back, from chemotherapy or whatever, in a later episode, people were like, you don't have cancer, so why are you taking chemo? But yeah, so this is the introduction of Lane's downfall.
Yep. Bell in this episode, he has a pretty big plot line. Not only does he catch a patient on fire in the OR, he is promoted to CEO So,
well, let's talk about first how he tried to cover up what happened in the OR. He went to like everybody in that operating room.
It's very reminiscent of the pilot's first scene.
Yeah. And he tried to put the blame on
Chu,
which is the
anesthesiologist,
played by Vincent Foster.
Like, because Claire installs cameras that record all the video and audio in the OR. And because of this, they have footage of the fire, and the patient is able to hack into Chastain's database, pull it, edit it into the spoof video, and it goes viral. Conrad's all like, he's like laughing and joking, and it's hilarious to him. It's not so hilarious to Dr. Bell.
It's hilarious watching the video.
Yes, they did a good job making it. But it's like, there's a scene where Bell has Chu come in and explains that the machine, whatever the machine they used to filter out the oxygen in the OR, was antiquated, and that's what caused the fire, because it didn't filter out enough oxygen or whatever, and the cartridge tool sparked and the O2 went up in flames.
Yeah.
That's the way they explained it. But, are you going to really blame it on antiquated equipment, or are you going to blame it on the fact that you're a bad surgeon?
I just hate, like, Bell in this episode because he kept like trying to blame it on everybody. He even like tried to blame it on, well, he did blame it on Minna, but Claire even tried to contact Minna's other
Dr. Case.
Yeah.
She talked to Dr. Case because Nina actually told Claire the truth about Hodad.
Yeah.
And why Conrad calls Bell Hodad. But the fact is, Claire couldn't really act on it before Lane and Bell got the board to overthrow her and push her out.
And then here's the thing. I think that Lane was wanting really badly for Bell to be CEO because, because she's sleeping with him, right? And he's like, she thinks that, if I have like him on the top of whatever, I don't get away with this murdering patients or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She was so wrong, but whatever. It's only because Bell eventually, because underneath it all, Bell does have a conscience.
Season 1, it was under a lot of layers.
And so that's really, the episode really is, there's a lot of layers in this episode, but there's not too many, plot lines. They're all kind of overlapping each other.
But I think this episode is kind of like the foundation of what the season finale is. You know what I mean? Because like I said, it's the Bell, the CEO, them introducing the patient, etc. It's just like layers upon layers of what's going to happen next or whatever.
This is the setup to the beginning of the end. Next week, we will be talking about a very pivotal episode to the show, a very personal favorite of mine. We are going to finally get to bring in discussion on the Raptor.
Right.
And of course, of Stephen Reddington's character, Bradley Jenkins, who falls through the skylight. So it's a two.
Yeah, so not surprised at all, but the Raptor won the poll.
Yeah, not surprising. Like we had, because like last week if you've listened, you know that we did a poll, and like he overwhelmingly won. So there you go. Yeah. So next week we're going to be bringing in one of our fan favorite characters, Dr. AJ Austin, aka the Raptor, and we've discussed this episode specifically with both Malcolm and Stephen, who plays Bradley, in previous podcasts. So if you watch this and you haven't listened to those interviews, go back and listen to or watch Malcolm and Steven talk about 112 because it's phenomenal to get the behind the scenes insight on where they were thinking when they did these. Then we're going to be doing 113, which is Run Doctor Run. And then, of course, the week behind that is the week of Thanksgiving, and The Resident does have a Thanksgiving themed episode. It's episode 308, Pecking Duck Day. And then we'll be finishing up season 1 at the end of November with episode 114, Total Eclipse of the Heart. And so we're very excited to get to finish a whole season of episodes on the podcast before the new season returns.
I'm excited
in January.
About it.
We're very excited. So stay tuned for all that. Our Patreon. This week, if you become a patron on our Patreon, you'll get a behind-the-scenes video time-lapse viewing of me making the graphic for this week's podcast. I screen recorded how I made the graphic, and I sped it up by like 16 times and put it on Patreon. So if you pay $1,
thank you to our one patron.
How? Because a lot of people have asked me how I make the graphics. You'll get to see it if you pay $1. The Patreon is the way to help you support us. Let's just put it like that. And you can go to you can go to patreon.com/The Resident Podcast. And seriously, this week we do have BTS on how I made the graphic. So there's that. And so, reminder, this is election week in America. We're not going to get too political.
Go vote in person. Don't vote. It's all right to mail it in or whatever. So vote in person if you have it. Be early.
Just go prepared to be there a while.
You're going to be in line for a while.
But please do exercise your civic duty to vote. And that's all we're going to make sure you're wearing a mask because most places will not allow you to go vote without one. How to contact us. You can always email us at theresidentRulebreakers@gmail.com. And you can always go to us on social media. There's our Facebook page, which is the Resident Rulebreakers Podcast, and the Facebook group, which is the Resident Fox Fans. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, please join and answer all the questions or you will be declined. The Facebook group is actually connected to the page, so you can see a little join button there at the top. And then Instagram, which is at the Resident Podcast, and then Twitter, which is at Resident Podcast. So there's all that. How to listen. Podbean, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And so until next week, when we talk about Rude Awakenings and the Raptor, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Camille.
Bye, guys.